everybody, welcome to Tangle Break. Today we're going to do this tile using the Tangles Bales, Printemps, Purk, and Crescent Moon. We're going to be using the 8 basic steps of the Zentangle method. Step number 1 is gratitude and appreciation. I'm thankful for the time that we're able to take a break from our day to relax and draw. And the supplies that we're going to use are a black Micron 01 pen, a Zentangle pencil, a Tortillon, a white charcoal pencil, and a 3.5-inch white tile. And this tile was inspired from Zentangle headquarters. So let's go ahead and get started. So grab your tile and your pen, and what we're going to do is go ahead and mark halfway, and then halfway, and then halfway again, so you have 4 parts. And then across the bottom, halfway, and then half of that, and then half of that. So you're going to have the 4 sections. And now what we're going to do is connect the corner to corner with a slight arch. So just draw slow, just with a little bit of an arch. Okay, now I'm going to go to the next one and just draw a little bit of an arch, and then the next one, and then the last one. So that makes our string. And so now what we're going to do is go back and aura each of these lines that we just made, which separates these little borders, and then we'll be able to put our tangles in these sections. Okay, let's go ahead and start in the corner first. And I'm just going to make a little arch here, a little curve just like all the other ones. And I'm going to fill it in. Then I'm going to put an aura. And on this next section, I'm just going to put bands and fill them in. And so it almost looks like sun rays coming off of the middle. So make another band and fill it in. And then another one. And I have room for a half of one right here. Okay, now I'm going to go on the other side and do the same thing. And there's room for just a little bitty one here at the top. All right, that section's done. So the next section we're going to do is printemps, which is just spirals. Okay, so I'm going to start with a spiral. And then when I'm at the border, I go under the border. And then I'm going to put in some more, and I'm doing it fairly close so that I can draw it behind the one that we just drew and under the border. So I'm going to fill up this whole section with printemps. And then it will have a very cool effect at the end when we shade it. Some of them are going to be big, some of them are going to be smaller, and they're all going to fit in just this one section. And I'm going to do a lot of drawing behind. And turn your tile to make it easy. See, you can see up here, they're going to be smaller to fit in the space. I think that printemps are almost mesmerizing as you get caught up in the spiral. And then just a couple more here at the bottom. Okay, so now let's go to the next section, and what we're going to do is a tangle called purk. So on this one, it's going to be a series of orbs. So I'm going to start pretty close to the center and make a complete orb, squishing it in so it looks like it's barely fitting. Then I go next door and draw the next one with the side underneath the one I just drew. Same thing here. I'm drawing an orb, but it's underneath the one I just drew. I'm going to do this whole side in the same manner. Okay, now I'm going to go to the other side and do the same thing, but in the opposite direction. So it's underneath the one that I already drew, and then just keep on fitting them in all the way across. And then it goes off the tile. Now the spaces in between these orbs, I'm going to blacken them in. All these little triangles that were left. So just sit back, relax, and fill in your little triangles. Okay, so now we're going to go to the next section and do a tangle called bales. And we're going to need a grid to do it. So I'm going to divide this section in half, just oring down the center. And now I'm going to come back and do some lines straight up and down to make my grid. And I'm going all the way across, and then I'll go back the other side also. I'm going to turn it so that it makes it easier. And the spaces don't have to be perfectly sized, but as you can eyeball it, they look pretty close. And now we're going to do bales, which is making rice shapes on these lines. So on the border, I'm just making this skinny little rice shape from corner to corner, all the way down, and where you can't see it, it goes underneath this little rice shape. And that's it. And we're just going to do this little rice shape on all the lines, and it's a very cool pattern design that comes out at the end. Oh, here's one at the bottom. Goes off the tile. Okay, now I'm going to turn my tile and show you what I mean. So I'm going to go on either side of the line with these little rice shapes. Now turn my tile and go the other way. Okay, now let's do some more lines with the same rice shape on either side. And I picture where it would go off the tile. And now I can do corner to corner. Okay, now we just have the bottom section to do of that area. So more rice shapes. Okay, now the border, which separates bales from purk. We'll put the rice shapes here. And then right off the tile. So let's go the next step and make this even fancier. So we're going to make another rice shape going from corner to corner inside these squares. And we're going to alternate. So now this one, it goes this way. And then put in the rice shape. So put in your line, alternating. And then put in your rice shapes. And we're going to do this on both the top row and the bottom row. And it just gives it another dimension. Okay, now move to the bottom section and do the same thing, alternating back and forth across the whole bottom section. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is go up to the top and we're going to put in these little perfs, these little orbs, and then put a little dot in the middle. And they're squished up beside each other, and it's going to be used as a border on what we've just completed. So orbs with a little dot in the center, and then I'm inking in if there's the little triangle between the orbs, just ink it in. Okay, now let's go back to the section with bales in it, and we're going to put a little weight in these corners. So I'm just putting a little black ink in the corners of bales, and I'm going to do it all the way across. And it just makes it look heavier and just a little bit more solid. It's also known as rounding. So where these little corners are, I'm just rounding them off, giving them a little bit softer look and filling it in with a little ink. So just go ahead and round all your little corners. Okay, now it's time for step number 6. We're going to shade. So grab your pencil, and we're going to start down here at the bottom where we started. And I'm going to go on either side of these rays that we made, on the inside of that aura boundary we made, on both sides. And I'm going to do the same for printemps. I'm going to go on either side of the border. And then I'm going to go around the printemps so that you can see the layers of which ones are in front of the others. And it just gives it more of a three-dimensional look. Now on purk, I'm going to do the same thing on both sides at the borders. And we'll smooth it out with a tortillon next. So I'm putting it on pretty thick on both sides. Okay, and now we're going to go up to bales. I'm going to turn my tile to make it easier, and I'm going to do the same exact thing on either side of the border, and I'm putting it on pretty thick. Okay, and the next place I'm going to put some shade is on the outside of these little perfs that we made, just to separate it from the background of the white paper. Okay, so now grab your tortillon and we're going to soften and spread out the pencil marks that we just made. So I'm smoothing them out with these little circular motions and bringing them toward the center. I'm leaving the band totally white that separates the different sections. And I'm going to go in and smooth out the lines around the printemps. Okay, then on to purk, and I'm just going to smooth it out and spread it a little bit toward the center, just bringing it in a little bit more with these little round circular shapes. Now I'm going to move to bales, do the same thing, circular motion to smooth it in. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the border with the perfs, just bringing it away from the perfs just a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to grab my white charcoal pencil and I'm going to highlight right down the center. So on the first, these little sun rays right across the middle. Same thing for printemps, right across the middle. Same thing for purk, right down the center. It's a little bit harder to see on the camera than it is in person, so when you're doing it, you'll notice that the highlight shows up more than what you see on the screen. And it gives it a nice contrast from the shadows. And you don't have to blend it in. I'm not going to use a tortillon for this because I want it to stand out. All right. So now it's time for step 7, initial and sign. Grab your pen. And I'm going to look to see where I want to put my chop. I think I want to put it up in this corner. Let it blend into the picture. And then when you turn it, it just sort of blends. You have to look for it. All right, turn it over on the back. And this is Tangle Break. And the tangles today were bales, printemps, and purk. Okay, now it's time for step 8, appreciate again. And you can look at it in any direction. And I love the shadows and the highlights. And I'll see you next time on Tangle Break. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye for now.